The castle is melting, and Sofia's boat just turned into liquid fire. Not exactly the kind of adventure you sign up for when you're trying to enjoy a peaceful river ride. But that's what happens when the Ruby River decides normal water is overrated. Sofia discovered this the hard way. One moment she's gliding across calm water with Clover, admiring how the sunlight makes everything sparkle. The next moment, that sparkle isn't reflection, it's heat, the kind that makes you realize your entire mode of transportation is about to betray you in the most dramatic way possible. The transformation started at the bow. Wood grain began glowing like someone had painted it with embers. Sofia watched the planks beneath her feet shift from solid brown to pulsing orange. You know that feeling when you touch something and immediately know you shouldn't have? Multiply that by 100. The boat wasn't just warm, it was becoming the heat. Clover did what any sensible rabbit would do. He screamed. Not the cute little bunny squeak you'd expect, but a full-throated panic that perfectly captured the situation. Because when your floating sanctuary starts melting into the very substance you're trying to float on, vocabulary fails you. The river itself had changed. What flowed beneath them wasn't water anymore. It moved like water, rippled like water, but glowed with an intensity that made looking directly at it painful. The Ruby River had earned its name in the worst possible way. Liquid gemstone, beautiful and absolutely lethal. Sofia grabbed the oars. They were already softening. Her hands touched wood that felt more like clay, warm and yielding in ways oars should never be. She tried rowing anyway. What else do you do when your options are limited to paddle through lava or become part of the lava? Each stroke sent ripples of molten ruby spreading outward. The oars left trails of dripping fire. Within seconds, they weren't oars anymore, just vaguely oar-shaped puddles sliding off her palms. She dropped what remained before they could melt through her gloves. The shoreline looked impossibly far. Distance does that when every second counts and your vehicle is actively dissolving. Trees along the bank stood untouched, their roots somehow immune to the chaos. The grass remained green. Birds still sang. Everything beyond the river's edge existed in perfect normalcy, completely indifferent to the nightmare unfolding on the water. Clover made a break for it. He hopped toward the edge of the boat, presumably planning some kind of heroic leap to safety. The deck sagged under his weight. His paw sank an inch into what used to be solid timber. He froze, balanced on 3 legs, the fourth slowly being consumed by melting boat. Sofia yanked him back. They huddled in the center, the only spot that hadn't fully liquefied. But that spot was shrinking. The edges curled inward like paper burning in reverse, folding into themselves and dripping down to join the river below. Here's what nobody tells you about magical disasters. They're weirdly quiet. You'd expect roaring flames or explosive sounds. Instead, the boat just sighed, a long, gentle hiss as wood surrendered its solid form. Almost peaceful if you ignored the whole imminent death situation. The hull developed holes, small ones first, like someone was poking through from underneath with a hot poker. Then larger gaps as entire sections simply gave up and flowed away. Sofia could see straight down into the glowing river, through spaces where her feet had been moments before. James appeared on the shore. Of course he did. Big brothers have impeccable timing for showing up right when you're about to become a cautionary tale. He was shouting something, gesturing wildly, but Sofia couldn't hear over the hissing, and Clover's continued panic. She tried to signal back. Hard to communicate complex ideas through hand waves when you're also trying to maintain balance on a rapidly disappearing platform. The boat tilted. Physics, even magical physics, has opinions about objects with holes in them trying to float on dense liquid. The tilt became a lurch. Sofia's feet slipped on the increasingly slick surface. Everything was warm now. Not hot enough to burn yet, but getting there. The air itself felt thick, like breathing in a sauna made of gemstones. Clover clung to her shoulder, his claws digging through fabric. She didn't blame him. When your world is literally melting away, you grab onto whatever seems solid. She was solid. For now. The mast went first, collapsing into itself like a candle and fast forward. It splashed into the river, sending up sprays of molten ruby that arced through the air and hardened into tiny crystals before hitting the surface again. Beautiful and terrifying. Then the sides folded inward. The boat was eating itself, collapsing toward the center where Sofia and Clover balanced on the last remaining solid piece. A circle of wood maybe 3 feet across. Their island was shrinking. James was doing something on the shore. Sofia couldn't tell what. Her entire focus had narrowed to the immediate problem of not falling into liquid fire. Peripheral vision becomes a luxury when you're rationing square footage. The boat shuddered. One final protest before giving up completely. Sofia felt it go. That moment when solid becomes liquid, when the thing holding you up decides it's done with that responsibility. They were falling. Not fast, not like dropping into water, more like sinking into honey. The boat dissolved around them, transforming from vessel to river in the space between heartbeats. Sofia's hand shot out, grabbing for anything, her fingers closed around something solid. Finally, something that wasn't melting or glowing or trying to kill her. She looked up to see what she'd caught. This was either going to be their salvation or just a different kind of problem. James's shield. Her fingers had locked onto the rim of James's shield, which meant James had thrown his shield, which meant he'd seen the boat failing, which meant he'd calculated trajectory and timing while she'd been too busy panicking to think straight. She made a mental note to be nicer to her brother. Maybe, if they survived this. The shield was solid, blessedly, wonderfully solid. Metal that stayed metal. Revolutionary concept in this moment. She hauled herself up, Clover still death-gripping her shoulder. The shield wasn't floating exactly, more like it was refusing to sink through sheer stubbornness. Metal shouldn't float on liquid gemstones, but apparently James's shield hadn't read that memo. They had maybe 30 seconds before physics won that argument. Sofia looked toward shore. James was already moving, running along the bank with something in his hands. A rope? No, too stiff. A branch? Wrong color. Her brain, still catching up from the adrenaline, finally processed what she was seeing. The mast. He'd grabbed the collapsing mast before it fully melted. Smart. Insane, but smart. The mast was still half solid, one end wooden and firm, the other end drooping like overcooked pasta. James planted the solid end on the shore and extended the drooping end toward them. It wasn't going to reach. Simple geometry. The distance was too far, the mast too short, and it was melting faster now that he'd pulled it from the river. Sofia did the math. The shield was sinking, the mast was melting, the shore was too far. That's when Clover bit her ear. Not hard, more of a pinch really, enough to snap her attention sideways. He was pointing, his little paw jabbing repeatedly at something in the river about 10 feet to their left. Sofia squinted through the amber glow. A rock. Just a normal, boring, definitely not melting rock jutting up from the surface. How it was surviving in liquid fire was a question for later. The shield lurched. They were definitely sinking now. The gemstone river was creeping up over the rim, warm and viscous. Sofia could feel heat through the metal. Decision time. She grabbed Clover, held him tight against her chest, and jumped. Not toward shore. Toward the rock. The air felt thick as she arced through it. Everything moved slow. That weird time dilation that happens when you're doing something spectacularly stupid. She could see individual droplets of molten ruby spraying up from where the shield finally surrendered and sank. Could see James's face shifting from confusion to horror as he realized what she was doing. Could see the rock getting closer. Her feet hit stone. Real, solid, blessedly cool stone. She stumbled, caught herself, nearly dropped Clover. The rabbit squirmed free and perched on the highest point of the rock, looking extremely done with today. The rock was maybe 4 feet across. Barely room for both of them. But it wasn't melting, and right now that made it the best real estate in the kingdom. James had adjusted. The mast swung toward them, its drooping end reaching. Still not close enough. The wood was softening faster, starting to glow at the edges. Sofia looked at the gap. 6 feet maybe. Jumpable on solid ground. Significantly less jumpable when your landing pad is a boy holding a melting stick. But the rock was shrinking. She thought it was stable, but now she could see the edges rounding, smoothing. Slower than the boat, but definitely melting. They had minutes at best. Clover tugged her sleeve. He was pointing again, this time at something behind them. Sofia turned. Another rock, smaller than theirs, barely a foot wide, but closer to shore. And beyond it, another one, and another. A path of stepping stones she hadn't noticed before, each one progressively closer to safety. Of course. Why have one terrible option when you can have a series of increasingly terrible options? The first jump was short, easy. Sofia made it with Clover tucked under one arm. The second rock was smaller, forcing them to balance carefully. The third was barely a bump in the surface, giving them just enough space to push off toward the fourth. Each stone was melting. She could feel them shrinking beneath her feet, the surfaces getting slicker and rounder with each second. This was a one-way path. No going back, only forward, faster than the rocks could dissolve. The fifth stone cracked under her weight. Not melting, actually fracturing. Apparently even magic fire has limits. The rock split, one half tilting dangerously. Sofia jumped before it could dump her into the river. She was getting closer to shore, close enough to see the worry etched on James's face. Close enough to hear him shouting encouragement or warnings, hard to tell which. 2 more stones. The second to last one was already half melted, rounded like a river stone. Her foot slipped on landing. Clover yelped. She windmilled her arms, found balance, didn't breathe. 1 more. The last stone was tiny, barely larger than her foot, and it was glowing, starting to soften around the edges. She had 1 chance. Sofia jumped. Her foot caught the stone for a fraction of a second, just enough to push off toward shore. The stone dissolved the moment she left it, collapsing into the river with a soft plop. She was flying, arms outstretched, Clover yelling something probably inappropriate for a royal rabbit, the shore rushing up to meet them. James caught her. Sort of. More like they collided and both went down in a tangle of limbs and fur and that shield that had somehow ended up under both of them. Sofia lay there for a moment, staring up at the sky, feeling the cool grass beneath her back. Clover was sprawled across her stomach, panting. James was sitting nearby, looking equally exhausted. Nobody spoke. What was there to say? Then Clover lifted his head. "So, we're never getting on another boat, right?" Sofia sat up slowly, brushing grass off her dress. The castle loomed behind them, perfectly ordinary and non-melting. Birds chirped. Somewhere a gardener was trimming hedges, the kind of peaceful afternoon that makes you forget you nearly drowned in sentient candle wax 5 minutes ago. James was examining his shield. One edge had a smooth, rounded quality now, like someone had filed it down, a souvenir from the river. He caught Sofia looking and shrugged. "Could be worse," he said. "Could be completely dissolved." "Could be us," Clover added, still not moving from Sofia's lap. "Could definitely be us." The path back to the castle was uneventful, suspiciously uneventful. Sofia kept waiting for the ground to turn into quicksand, or the trees to start dripping honey or something equally ridiculous. But nothing happened. Just a normal walk through normal gardens on a normal day, which somehow made it worse. Because now she was thinking about what had just happened, really thinking about it. The boat hadn't attacked them, it had just melted, slowly, methodically, returning to liquid like it had never been solid at all. And that was the part that bothered her. Not magic gone wrong, just magic being magic, following its own logic that had nothing to do with keeping people safe. They reached the courtyard. Cedric was there, because of course he was. Probably drawn by some mystical sense that detected whenever his spells caused problems. He had that look, the one that said he was already preparing an explanation that would somehow make this Sofia's fault. "Ah, Princess," he began. "I trust the afternoon cruise was satisfactory?" Clover made a noise somewhere between a laugh and a scream. Sofia held up one hand. "The boat melted, Mr. Cedric." "Melted?" He blinked. "That's impossible. I used a stabilization charm specifically to prevent..." He paused. "Wait, did you take it onto the Western River?" "Yes?" "Ah." Cedric's expression shifted. "That river has residual heat enchantments from last winter's ice prevention spell. The interaction would have reversed the molecular cohesion binding and..." He trailed off, seeing their faces. "Yes, well, melting. That would explain it." James stepped forward. "So you knew this could happen?" "I knew the theoretical possibility existed, yes, but the probability was quite low, barely 15%. 15%? Sofia's voice climbed higher than intended. "You gave us a boat with a 15% chance of dissolving?" Cedric waved dismissively. "You survived, didn't you? Excellent practical experience in adaptive problem solving." He turned to leave, then paused. "Do try to return the oars. They were the good birchwood ones." He was gone before anyone could respond. Sofia looked at James. James looked at Sofia. Clover looked at both of them. "I vote we stick to regular boats from now on," the rabbit said. "The kind made by actual boat makers, people who understand wood." It was a good plan, a sensible plan, the kind of plan that would prevent future incidents of aquatic dissolution. But Sofia was still thinking about those stones, the path that appeared just when they needed it. Too convenient to be coincidence, too perfectly placed to be natural. She'd assumed they were always there, hidden beneath the surface. But what if they weren't? What if something created them? Not Cedric. He'd been genuinely surprised by the melting, but something else. Some protective enchantment woven into the castle grounds itself, designed to help people in danger. Or she was overthinking it. Maybe they were just rocks, regular rocks in a regular river that happened to be in the right place at the right time. The thing about magic is you never quite know where it ends, and luck begins. They parted ways at the castle entrance. James headed toward the armory to check if his shield needed repairs. Clover disappeared in the direction of the kitchens, muttering something about emotional support carrots. Sofia stood alone in the hallway, watching sunlight stream through stained glass windows. Her dress was still damp in places. Small spots where wax had splashed and cooled and eventually flaked off. evidence of the afternoon's adventure, already fading. By tomorrow, the spots would be dry. By next week, she probably wouldn't remember which dress this was. But she'd remember the boat. The way it felt when solid things stopped being solid. When the rules changed mid-game and you had to figure out new ones on the fly. That's the real trick of living in an enchanted castle. Not the magic itself, but learning to trust yourself when magic stops making sense. When boats melt and rocks appear and rabbits talk and none of it follows any logic except its own. Sofia started walking toward her room. Her feet knew the way even when her mind was elsewhere. Past the portrait gallery where painted eyes seemed to follow movement. Past the library where books occasionally reorganized themselves. Past a dozen small impossibilities that had become so normal she barely noticed them anymore. Somewhere above, she heard Cedric's voice echoing through the tower. He was probably already working on his next project, some new spell that would definitely work perfectly with absolutely no chance of unexpected side effects. She smiled despite herself. Tomorrow there would be another adventure, another magical mishap turned learning experience, another afternoon of impossible things becoming possible through sheer determination and maybe a little luck. But tonight she'd take a bath, a long one, in a tub that was definitely, absolutely, 100% not going to melt. Probably. Sofia reached her room and closed the door behind her. The silence felt strange after all the chaos. She could still feel the heat of the river on her skin, still hear Clover's panicked squeaks echoing in her ears. She walked to her window and looked out over the gardens. The western river sparkled in the late afternoon sun, perfectly innocent now. You'd never know it had spent the last hour trying to turn them into decorative candles. That's the thing about enchanted kingdoms. The danger never looks dangerous until you're standing in it. Rivers that melt boats look exactly like regular rivers. Spells with 15% failure rates sound perfectly reasonable until you're the 15%. But she'd figured it out. When the boat dissolved and the shield sank and every option looked impossible, she'd found the stones, made the jumps, trusted herself when trusting anything else would have been stupid. Maybe that was the real lesson Cedric accidentally taught her today. Not about boats or rivers or magical chemistry, about knowing when to stop waiting for rescue and start rescuing yourself. She pulled off her damp dress and tossed it toward the laundry basket, missed, didn't care. Tomorrow she'd probably end up in another impossible situation. That seemed to be the pattern. But at least now she knew she could handle it, even if it meant jumping across melting rocks while holding a screaming rabbit, especially then.